just mute.
All right, we're going live.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. Okay, we're live.
Wow. All right.
Reed got on. I was like looking at the time. Okay. Maybe let's wait until one person shows up live and then we'll start. Look at no one's chomping at the bit. We have nobody. Oh, we have someone in.
Hello.
20 seconds. That's got to be
Nice.
close to a record of how fast someone's joined before. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna be talking some Mariners, talking maybe even a little bit other baseball free agency. I don't know. We'll just kind of see where this. Oh, now back to zero. That's unfortunate. We'll kind of just see where this. I don't know. We'll post this too. So
Yeah. No.
you know, we don't have to worry about if anyone's watching it actually live. Okay, yeah. We were kind of debating about talking about this on the podcast, like doing a segment at the end, and then we both kind of decided, well, I kind of decided, and Matthew was along with it, that we were going to do just some Mariners talk right now, and then talk maybe a little bit baseball in the pod, but instead of doing an extra segment at the end, because I feel like it's probably going to be a longer pod tonight anyways, just figured we would talk Mariners on here. So I think let's just break it down. Let's start with what we have now. Position by position. Let's just go through it. All right. So maybe like confidence level at each position we can talk about too. So catcher, we've got the three catchers. We got Tom Murphy, Cal Raleigh, Luis Torrens. Do you think that's the three we go into the season with? Like what?
Yeah, I know there was some talk about us possibly trading with the Cubbies for
Contreras.
Okay. I don't think that's probably going to happen. I think they're okay with Murphy and Raleigh being kind of the main two, and then Torrens if we need him. I think Torrens probably lines up more as a DH. His defense needs. Last year was kind of he had some rough spots, and I think Murphy and the emergence of Cal Raleigh hopefully will help with that. But, I mean, with Cal especially, he's only 25 years old. It usually takes a catcher 2 or 3 years to really get comfortable in the MLB. And so we're kind of, playing the time game there. I think him and Murphy are probably going to split more and more time than last year. It seemed like it was primarily Murphy when we really needed him, and then Cal is just getting work, every 2 games or so.
Well, it's like, I don't know, Murphy. It seems like with the combination of the three of them, and you can kind of barely put Torrens in there because his bat's obviously better than the other three, but I don't know, like what. I'm worried Murphy's kind of like we're kind of just. With catcher, we're like, we probably can't do too much better than these guys. So it's like probably not worth giving up that. I mean, that's a weird thing about catcher in the MLB right now is it's just not a very there's not a lot of guys that are good at both defense and hitting. So it's kind of like I feel like Tom's not bad at both, and then we're kind of just like, you know what, like we're fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, he hit. The tough part is like he hit 273 in 2019. So I mean. He can do it. I think he has a good rapport with the pitching staff, and I think they view him as kind of our backup that plays a lot, and Raleigh is kind of our project. But I think that probably catcher is a position that if we need to address it next year, that's probably one of the 3 or 4 spots we really have to address. I think. We're planning on starting pitching. Whatever we have this year is what we're going to be rolling with. And then let, Hancock or Kirby come up when they're ready. But so I think that's kind of what they're looking at with catchers, just kind of wait and see, whether either of these guys can emerge and, play well enough to really take over the catching spot and kind of go from there.
It's weird because then you got, Murphy only played, I'm looking at stats from last, 97 games. Is that what is that a normal amount of games for a catcher? I'm trying to think.
Let's see.
Seems probably right. Like
he's a catcher who didn't get hurt last year.
Yeah, for real.
Is he good?
Perez, Salvador?
Yeah.
He's probably an everyday one.
Yeah, he probably played DH when he didn't.
Yeah, true.
Let's see. Looking that up right now. Oh, so that only shows. Never mind. This one didn't show. Oh, there it is. 161.
Wow. I mean, how much does he normally play? So like, because that was he was MVP.
129.
Okay, so like
140.
97 isn't horrible, but I mean, he hit 202 last year. Like you mentioned, like
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a weird. I think you're probably right that they're hoping Cal Raleigh is the guy in the future. Cal played 47 games last year, hit 180.
Yeah.
2 home runs. I mean, honestly, I think it's just whoever plays is probably hitting 8th or 9th in the lineup, and just hope
it's probably one of those two. I don't think Torrens probably will catch a ton.
No, and Torrens played in 108 games last year. At the, I mean,
he got called down for a little bit too. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, anything else on catcher?
Oh, not for now.
I'm good with that. Okay, let's go to first base. First base is a this is an interesting one. We had a huge debate one night over the summer. We were watching a Mariners game with like my brothers, my dad, and I were watching with the Sunday Hosses with Ted and Anthony, and we had a big debate about Evan White and Ty France. And that we were kind of like, it was more like, was his contract a waste? But it was also like, I don't know. It was just we had an interesting debate about Evan White. Probably spent a lot of time and energy and unneeded amount of time on Evan White. But that's kind of like Evan White, like he wins the Gold Glove, right? In the shortened season. He's 25 years old. We signed him to a, like, what was it, 6 year? It was like 6 for like $24 million. So like, it wasn't not a huge deal at all, but more than like a rookie deal.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like, we think you're going to be worth a ton in the future, so we're going to pay you now, so we don't have to pay you later, type of thing. They gambled on him. They
did, and he gets hurt last season. Plays in 30 games. In those 30 games, hit 144. I mean, that's the bottom line for Evan White, is he's got to hit. The encouraging thing for the Mariners, though, is that Ty France was probably our most consistent player of all last season, and he played really good defensive first base. That was the most surprising thing to me. Was
he deserved a Gold Glove.
Exactly.
Like, the way he played, like, there's a lot of other players out there. But, I mean, for him to move over, being primarily a third baseman for the high extent of his career, to move over to first base and make that type of impact was incredible. I mean, he's a leader of this team, and so you kind of look at it now, and it's Ty France's position to win.
Right.
And if Evan White's bat comes into play, what's really cool about having a bunch of players that can move around different positions is you can mix and match your lineup to best fit whoever the 9 best hitters on the team are.
Yeah.
So I think with Evan White, and if he plays a full year, whether he starts 3 years in AAA or not, and comes up and can hit, I don't know, 230, like, at least you can start to, like,
with a couple home runs, please.
He's not a free agent until he's 32 years old.
Yeah,
it's 2028 is his last year. Like, he's under like team contract. So I mean, you could look at that and you're like, all right, well, there should be a market for him if he can hit. That's the problem. He has to hit, but I think it's not a horrible position to be in, but for sure, if he can't get his hitting up and can't stay healthy, I don't know what you really can do with him, because the market's going to be really low, and nobody wants to pay that amount of money for a guy that they don't believe in.
Yeah, no, Evan White is a bench piece. I think Evan White probably starts the year in the minors.
Oh, he should.
Yeah.
His confidence. I mean, you play 30 games, you sit out the rest of the year, and you weren't playing well when you were healthy. I think I think it's not good for him to start and be a bench player.
Oh, the Seahawks signed Adrian Peterson. We did sign him for sure.
Oh, wow. Making a run, folks. That's what we needed.
I mean, it's going to be cool to see him in the Seahawks uniform, I guess. He can add that to his jersey collection. But overall, first base, like you said, it's not a position of worry at all for the Mariners. No. I think we're fine with whatever happens. Second base, this was one of the biggest question marks going into the season over the past, probably a week ago today. Made it one of our more solidified positions, I think.
Right.
Like obviously you have guys like on our team like Dylan Moore and Toro that can play the second base, but now having a guy in Adam Frazier, former All-Star last year, hit 305. He's the everyday second baseman for sure. And it was clear, like it's really nice that he can play outfield too, and that we have other guys that can play second,
Right.
but you can slot him in there as the everyday second baseman.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think, before we made this trade, you were kind of looking at Toro and being like, okay, Toro, we'll talk about third in a little bit, but I think this kind of moves Toro into that infield utility spot that Dylan Moore previously was in. And it kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say it kicks Dylan Moore to the curb, but I mean, his playing time just took a nosedive.
We go from having to play him almost every game to not like when someone needs a rest now, which is where he's much better.
Right. He can play so many different positions, and like he's an impact guy. He just is not an everyday guy that you want in your lineup. You really want him to be someone who, can run the bases. If you need a pinch runner, can come in and pinch hit and get a big hit. Like he did that several times this year, and it's really cool to see them kind of evolving from having to have utility guys be everyday players for us. And I think this is the move, in the direction we're moving is kind of getting rid of the Dylan Moores, like the Sam Haggertys of the world.
Jake Bauers.
Yeah, Jake Bauers. The guys that play multiple positions, but are not someone you look at and you're like, that's our second baseman.
Right.
That's our outfielder, right?
And then, Frazier's definitely one of them.
Right.
Toro, let's go to third. Toro essentially comes in to replace Kyle Seager. Assuming we don't bring Kyle Seager back, it's like a 1% chance, I think. Maybe not even that.
0.001.
Yeah. This is where the Graveman move looks better than it did. When it happened to a couple weeks after it happened, like obviously, I don't know. I mean, now the move looks. I don't know if I'd say was it good. I don't whatever, but it's fine because now we have the third baseman
right.
For the foreseeable future. I mean, Toro's 24.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible because Graveman is now on the White Sox.
Yeah,
and so they have Rafael Montero from that trade, and obviously Joe Smith is gone, but it was essentially now it looks like Montero for Abraham Toro.
Right.
And I will take that all day of the week. I mean, they go to they win the ALCS and good for them. But I mean, at the end of the day, long term, we won that trade.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
No, for sure. Anything on Toro? Like he started out good he started out hot on the Mariners. Definitely cooled down as the season went along.
Right.
It was like at one point was he hitting like second or like fifth in the lineup?
Yeah,
and then
he had. I think it was the month of July and August. He was on fire.
Yeah,
like every time that you needed to hit from him, he got it.
Cooled down definitely in September, but yeah, I mean, I think he goes into the season being probably the starting third baseman, right?
Right. Yeah. If we don't make a move for another third baseman, I'm fine with Toro as a starting third baseman. I think being 24 years old, have a lot of years on contract left. I think there's a really good chance that he could grow and become third baseman in the future if we need him to be. And I think they're going to explore that market, and if they can go get a Story or Bryant for the right price, they'll do it. But I think they're content with Toro as the third baseman for now. And if they do bring in a third baseman, Toro is kind of the first utility that we talked about.
Right.
Which is fine.
That's the
right. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We haven't had that ever. Like you're talking like 2001 levels of depth.
Exactly.
We didn't have that.
Exactly. Kyle Lewis. All right. That perfectly segues into, we can shortstop to JP, and it's JP's for a long time, I hope.
Yeah. I think if there's anybody who would elect captain of the team right now, he's probably it.
Correct.
Him and Haniger can fight over it.
Correct. So, I need to touch on shortstop. hopefully he can keep it up because I think JP had his best year. I mean, 273. Did he win? He didn't win the Gold Glove, but he should have.
Yeah, Correa got it. But
Yeah. All right. Anyways, left field right now is the biggest, I'd say, biggest question mark of this team. Maybe besides our. I'd say I'd say left field right now is like not our biggest weakness, but I'm not sure where it could be our biggest weakness.
Right.
I'm just not sure what's going to happen in left field because the rest of the outfield's clear. Like Kelnick, I think Kelnick has the job in center to open up this. I mean,
I think I'm not sure if it's. I'm not entirely sure if it's center yet. I know
but
we have two outfielders that are set.
Yes,
so
that's what I mean. Yes.
And the third one is a big question mark.
So it's Kelnick and Haniger are in the outfield for sure.
Lock it in. So then
left field is where I mean Reed said, do you think Kalu is done?
I don't think he's done, but I do think that we're starting to get to the point where he's never going to play center field again. That's one reality we have to accept is he should not be playing center field again. And depending on how, spring training goes, how he's feeling, like you might have to move him to DH. I think he's a guy that could make that work. Even though he struggled last year, I do believe in his hitting ability. I think that he's a guy you want to hold on to. He's a trade piece. So even though he has all these injuries, it still gives me Adam Jones vibes. Because I really think if he can play, 162, he's a guy that is hitting in the top of our order at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, can he stay healthy? But I don't know. I love the potential of Kalu, and we also have here in the dock Julio Rodriguez. And Julio Rodriguez is probably, depending on how spring training goes, he might start in the MLB.
Do you think that's a possibility?
I think that he is the level of talent that he can make that happen. I don't know if it's the best for him development wise, but I think there's a chance that he could not give them a choice.
I agree. Yeah. I think that's definitely a possibility. Did you see this kind of a side note? Did you see we promoted our AAA manager to
bench
on?
coach?
I think he's been on the major league staff. I think that might be an indication of like they like what he's doing in Tacoma, and a lot of those guys are probably going to be playing up soon. Let's bring. I don't know. I think that's
that's a good point.
I don't know. I just was like, maybe they're taking like someone that the younger guys are more familiar with, putting him on the bench, which is I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting move.
Right.
You brought up the trade part. I wonder what his value is to the rest of the league because we've seen a couple hypothetical trades. I think I'll pull up the one. Talk a little bit about what do you think his value is to the rest of the league?
That's tough. I know that I think for any team, like I think the Rays would be a good example of that. A team like that has the depth where they're not relying on him to be like the guy.
Right.
Like I couldn't see a team like the Orioles or a team that's in that lower echelon to go make a big move for Kyle Lewis, with the expectation that he will be their guy.
Yeah.
But I think with a team like the Rays, if there was a trade, to move, a starting pitcher over here, get Kalu and something else back, would be something they would be interested in. I think Kyle Lewis, if he could stay healthy, let's see, how many years on contract does he have? He has to have at least
So that Rays trade that you mentioned was the one that I saw was Kyle Lewis and our number 9 prospect, which is a pitcher, for Kevin Kiermaier, who Kevin Kiermaier is not bad.
No, not at all.
He'd be our third starting outfielder, right? And Tyler Glasnow, who Glasnow's out for the entire 2022 season, or presumably out. I don't think he's like So the title of that trade was getting Glasnow for later. I mean, and you're almost saying like Kyle Lewis is like that's why it'd be a weird deal for both teams because the
Right.
Rays would be getting Kyle Lewis and it's like he's probably out for the entire season as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I found that trade interesting, but
Yeah.
if that's his. I mean, Glasnow would be insane. I don't know if that's.
Yeah. Lewis has 4 years of team contract. He has 3 years of arbitration after this year, and then he's a free agent at age 30. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's tough because we don't really have any more after Julio. We don't really have any more like outfield prospects. So you're just like, wow, I can't wait for this guy.
Well, no, I mean that's why you hope it's. You were hoping it was Kalu, Julio, and Kelenic, and now that Kalu looks like he's probably not going to be, and now it's Haniger. Haniger's proven that he's. Because that was kind of the debate. It was like, do we trade Haniger and trust that all three of the outfield guys are going to hit and be healthy? And now it's like, really glad we held on to Haniger because not only is he going to be our starting, I mean, he's our best player. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be the.
Yeah, it's the health part of it for me.
Yeah.
Can he stay healthy? I mean, if he's healthy and he's hitting even remotely close to, that we talk about the 230 number, but he can play DH. He's someone that I could see, if Torrens isn't doing very well and you're looking at our current roster, it's basically like him, Fraley, Dylan Moore, and Toro all kind of fighting for that DH role.
Right.
If whoever's not, in the starting 9, who is, or, the 8 other guys in the lineup, who's in the DH role. And, it comes down to the matchups,
But I'd rather have those guys be our rotational guys rather than guys that we've had in the past couple of years. Because, one of them's probably going to get hurt throughout the year.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's encouraging to see that we're at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I agree. Kelenic might not be in center. What does Julio play? I have no clue.
Julio actually can play center field.
Really?
I just don't know. I know that there's been talks about Kelnic's durability in center. That's
he
one of the concerns.
Honestly, he didn't look great in center.
Yeah, that's the tough part. So I think, projections wise, Julio Rodriguez maybe, but this is a position that we could address in free agency.
For sure.
For sure. They don't really, besides Haniger, you have a lot of young guys out there. So if you could bring in someone with a little bit of veteran presence in the outfield, doesn't have to be an everyday guy, but can play center field, I think that would help Kelenic.
And who are the guys that you list? So I'm looking
let's see.
Look at who the guys that we like. Chris Bryant would solve a lot of things for this team because he plays. Not only does he play third, he also can play outfield, which we kind of mentioned third as being a question mark still, and that third, he'd be kind of like Frazier, where he'd solve a lot of problems. That'd just be nice to have guys like Bryant and Frazier who can both play in the outfield when needed, but also, and then you have a guy like Toro who can play second and third. He can kind of play wherever they don't, and then if they need to go to the outfield because Julio's not ready or Kyle's still hurt, okay, we can Chris Bryant go play left. We can have Toro play third, or okay, now everyone's healthy. Bryant go back to third. We'll bring in Julio to play left or Kyle Lewis to play left, and I don't know. Guys like that would solve a lot of issues for the Mariners. And I know there's probably other guys that are cheaper than Chris Bryant, but I think that.
Yeah, I mean, the outfield, if you're looking at guys that are probably going to be pretty cheap that could just, 1-year deal, 2-year deal, nothing big. You bring in Tommy Phams, 33, probably going to be 34 by the time the season starts. Can play every outfield position. A guy like Eddie Rosario probably costs a lot more than Tommy Pham, but has that, basically World Series experience now. I mean, can move around the outfield a little bit. Kevin Pillar can play center field. These guys that shouldn't cost you more than 2 or 3, but Eddie Rosario is going to cost a lot more than that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Pham and Pillar shouldn't cost a lot.
I feel like Rosario might be a little bit of
that's probably
that's a buy high.
He has to start, for what you're paying him.
Yeah, but Pham, and then You wrote down Soler.
Yeah, that would be a dream.
That's a dream.
I just
for
think
sure.
him and like Julio are kind of not the same projection. I think Julio's sky's the limit, but my only concern, I know they're talking with I'm gonna butcher his first name, but like say Suzuki, the player.
Oh yeah, that Japan guy.
Apparently, yeah, they had a Zoom meeting with him today.
Okay.
And he's about 27, 28 years old. Probably, projects he had about 30 home runs a year, just based on what he's done in Japan.
And where does he play?
He would play probably corner outfield. Let me see. I'm not sure if he's played center at all, but
I mean, if we had to have Kelenic out there in center, that's fine.
No, yeah,
that's fine.
Let's see.
Yeah, he'd be great. He'd be great.
Where does he play? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options for him, and I really like the depth we already have. With Dylan Moore. I'm trying to figure out if he plays center field or not. It's just outfield.
It just says outfield.
I don't know.
Is he expected to like sign?
I'm guessing probably not before the lockout. Is that
well, yeah, more. I mean, even just this year, is he expected?
I think he's already posted. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that lockout's gonna screw up a lot of things because did you see they said they're done? The players have been told they're done negotiating for today.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, if they're done negotiating for today, then the lockout is happening for sure.
Yeah. Which I think, it goes into, place at midnight tonight. And then it's kind of a waiting game from there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then DH is, like we mentioned, could be a rotating piece. Probably Torrens right now.
Yeah.
Which is fine. He's a good hitter. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do we want to, like, You had mentioned Paxton to me a couple times, and then today was it yesterday he got signed?
Yeah, he got $10 million from the Red Sox.
I did not know it was $10 million.
Yeah, they paid him.
That's insane.
Good for him. I really want him to succeed and be healthy.
It was only a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of wild. I know Carabas was kind of like, yeah, I can see it, but like, we need to make more moves.
I don't think I would have paid him.
No. That's why I thought there wasn't going to be a market for him like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that we would be able to give him 1 or 2 and, be happy with that. So good for him.
I mean, do you still think Stroman's on the table? We haven't really talked rotation. Right now, the 4 guys in the rotation right now, bringing back Marco, Logan Gilbert, and Chris Flexen. And then obviously the big signing for the Mariners so far is Robbie Ray, reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. He's signed to a 5-year, $115 million, which is not a ton of money compared to what
Cy Young. Yeah.
So, he's definitely our one, which me and you have talked about at length of if Marco, Gilbert, and Flexen are 2, 3, and 4, we're in a lot better spot than where we were last year, where it was one of these guys, like it's one of them is our one, but we don't really know which one is. Mm-hmm. Now that they're 2, 3, and 4, and maybe even 3, 4, 5, where I think we're in a lot better spot as a pitching staff. You definitely hope Gilbert is your 2,
right?
And he showed flashes of it, like plenty of flashes of it last year. But yeah, those are the 4, and then it's the 5th is still up in the air of whether it's going to be like, do we bring in a guy like Stroman? Do we bring in Marcus Stroman to be another top of the end rotation guy? Do we bring in kind of a guy like Tyler Anderson that we brought in last year to be like that 5th guy that's nothing special, but he's like the typical 5th guy in the rotation. That you're like, yeah, he's not going to go out there and throw a complete game, but hopefully he gives us 5 or 6 innings of 2 runs or less every time he's out there. Like he's nothing super special. Or do we hold out for one of the young guys? Because you have Kirby and Hancock who have been, I don't know, they're not ready, but maybe they will be at the end of I don't know. It's a weird spot, this 5th guy in the rotation now, but it helps a lot to bring in Robbie Ray. I was shocked that we pulled the trigger on that. I was very happy.
He was not the name that had been linked to them.
No, but
that came out of nowhere. I love him too. The thing that I'm really stoked about is I watched the press conference today, and they talked about they asked him about his last year with the Diamondbacks, where he kind of lost control. Yeah.
So I listened to him. I listened to him he was on Mike Salk's show this morning. But continue.
Yes, I mean, I think that presence he brings to the starting rotation is invaluable. I mean, Marco was kind of that leader for us, and just to have a guy who's hasn't been, amazing for all of his career and has had the ups and downs and has really, last year really figured it out. Everything that he's been tweaking things year after year, and it finally clicked for him. And so if he can bring that to the table for guys like, mainly for Logan Gilbert. I mean, the rest of them, Marco's been in the league a long time. Flexen, has had those ups and downs going to Japan and now coming back. To have that experience for Gilbert and for, any of the young pitchers in spring training, and as well as the bullpen too. I mean, the pick you're bringing with a guy like that is amazing.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that he just won Cy Young. He's an incredible pitcher.
I really liked, he had a couple, he said a couple times, he knew Haniger from Arizona.
Right.
He said that he had talked to Mitch a bunch, but it was really cool listening to Robbie Ray talk about, he knew a lot about, he was like, I watched this team a lot at the end of last year. He was like, it looked like they were having so much fun. That it was super encouraging to hear him say that. I was like, he actually wants to be in Seattle. We haven't had a guy that, has looked at Seattle and said, I think I might be able to push this team over the top.
Right. Like if 5 teams all offer the same amount, you're not looking at it and being like, this is where I want.
No, Seattle's probably been last for the longest time.
Oh yeah. I mean, it started with Cano, giving Cano the huge deal. And then by getting Cano, we were able to get Nelson Cruz in here a long time ago. And now it's just how we got people in. It's just paying them more than anybody else is willing to pay them.
Yeah.
And to now be a contender, have a really good locker room with a lot of young pieces. The role of JP Crawford, I think, can't be under, sold or whatever. Yeah. He brings so much to this team, and it's just the source of a lot of that clubhouse morale, I feel like. And he's only 26 years old.
For sure.
And yeah, they have a lot of great pieces there.
He mentioned Tom Murphy too. And Robbie Ray was he reached out to me and was really, I was like, that's good to hear that you have a guy like Murphy who isn't performing at the level of these guys, but is a leader. I think that's cool. I don't know. I was during that interview, it got me really excited. I was like, wow, there's guys that want to play for this team, and that's something that we haven't had forever. So it feels good for sure. Yeah,
I think the Murphy thing is a big reason why it's him and Cal.
Yeah,
because I know Cal has had really good relationships with his pitchers in AAA with Gilbert. And I think they really like those two, and that's the main part of the position, is just building a really good rapport with your staff, and they both have kind of come a long ways in that regard, which is awesome to see.
Yeah. And then the bullpen right now is Sewald, Steckenrider, Sadler, who were our 3 best bullpen pitchers last year, I would say. Castillo, who you brought in to be, he was up and down last year. I think Mariners fans have a very mixed opinion of Castillo, because he was kind of the guy that was brought in to replace Graveman. And the only problem I see with those 3 in the bullpen is Sewald is probably not going to have the year that he did last year. You hope it's 80 to 90% of what it was last year, and that's still good enough to be if Sewald, Steckenrider, and Sadler are 80 to 90% of what they were last year, and then Castillo is good, Musevich, Munoz are good, and then you bring in Ken Giles, then the bullpen is still just because it's not. That's the thing, is it's probably not going to be as good as it was last year. You have to kind of assume some regression,
right?
And you just don't want to assume that it's going to be as good as it was last year, because that's I don't know. That's just when I hear a lot of people talk about the Mariners. They're before bringing in Frazier and before bringing in Ray, you were okay, they need to add stuff because they were really good in one-run games last year. So it's who do they? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you in the sense that one-run games having a negative 52 run differential, it doesn't bode well for repeatability,
right?
Especially with the bullpen. I'm stoked about Ken Giles.
Me
That's
too.
one.
Me too.
I think that, depending on how Sewell does,
I think the Giles is really underrated.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they gave this guy a 2-year contract, like, the start before last season started, not knowing, how his rehab was going. I mean, they bought into him.
Yeah.
And I think it looks great as of right now. We'll see how it, goes on the field. But I like that at this moment, there isn't a ton of pressure on him to be amazing because they have a lot of different pieces that can make it work. The same thing with Munoz. Like,
Right.
we just gave him a 4-year,
something
$9
like that.
million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a Evan White type of deal a little bit where you're kind of like, all right, we think you're going to be good.
Yeah.
But I think there's both of those two, because of the pieces around us, aren't expected to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which, if it was a bad bullpen, it wouldn't really be that case.
And I like that we don't really have a closer. And it's kind of nice. Because I remember at the end of last season looking at just the way that we used the guys in the bullpen, and Sewell would come in the 8th or 9th. I think they kind of played it as, okay, if it's the 2, 3, 4 guys coming up in the 8th,
right,
we'll go Sewell.
Yeah.
But and so he was kind of our closer, but more of like a matchup closer. I don't know. I like that role. And then because Steckenrider was so good, it didn't matter if he went the 8th or the 9th either.
Right.
Sadler came out of nowhere to become definitely our like 7th inning guy. Castillo could do either of those. And now you had Giles who can do 7th, 8th, or 9th as well.
Right.
I don't know. If you have those 5 guys that are all healthy and they can all pitch, and then like you said, Munoz is a younger, like, I don't know. If you have 5, maybe 6 guys that can all pitch in the last 3 innings, that's really, really good. Because that means it doesn't, like, even when we had Diaz, who was like the best closer in the league that year, you were always dependent on him.
Right.
You're like, okay, we get there, and it's like, hopefully he's on today. And I don't know. That's the scary thing about having that closer. I'm pretty confident in our bullpen this year.
Me too. I think, and you throw Matt Brash's name into the mix. We haven't seen him pitch yet, but he, as a guy, they were confident enough. They're like, all right, we're going to bring you up from Double A.
Yeah.
That's how, and Diaz did the same thing, a few years ago. And I think baseball is moving more towards this of having, like, if it's the 8th inning and we're facing the 1, 2, 3, like you said, like, it makes so much sense to have your best pitcher out there against their best hitters.
Facts.
Like, instead of bringing in, we used to do this like with Coleman and somebody else, where it's just like, all right, good luck against Mike Trout, Rendon, and whoever. And then Diaz, if we get to that point, we'll face 7, 8, 9. You're like, all right, if we get past the 8th, we're good to go. But we don't have our best pitcher out there.
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense. And I think it's the amazing reason why Scott Service deserved manager of the year. Because, I mean, him and that analytics team and the pitching coach and everybody had to dissect which is the best matchup to put in. And he did an amazing job of that. And the pitchers, are obviously deserve all the credit. But, I mean, he made those decisions and they worked out really well. And if you're going to hammer a guy for making the wrong decisions, he should have put in this guy then. And he should win manager of the year if he makes all the right calls.
For sure. Well, then it's like you look at, I think another team that does that really well is the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously they have way like bigger names and like more payroll but like their best reliever was not Kenley Jensen. It was, I mean, Triton is.
It's been like 3 years since that was the case.
And like they pitch like Blake is it Triton or Triton? Something like that.
I always pronounce it.
He would come in whenever they were like, we need to get out of this inning. It would be him first. And then it would be Kniebel, who now he's in the Phillies. You see that. That's a big one. So you're right. Baseball's definitely trending to that. It's like, why are we saving a guy for the 9th inning? Why wouldn't we just make it let's put there. This is a pivotal point in the game and their best players are up.
Let's put our best pitcher.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like,
who would have thought?
It's like it's like how you do it when you play video games. Like when you play MLB The Show, you're like,
all right,
I'm not gonna like we used to do that. Like me and Sam Wicks, my buddy Sam, we'd play like all-star games, and you'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna put in my next best pitcher, and it's like, it's a little bit different when you don't have all stars, but that's how we'd play it. We'd be like, you need to win this game, like I'm gonna put in my if my closer's 99, I'm not going to put in a guy that's 75 overall just because
Right.
it's like he's a middle.
It's
It
the eighth
says
inning.
it says middle reliever on him.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I don't care. We probably don't add anybody in the bullpen right now.
No.
I don't think. I think Giles is the addition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if anything, they do what they've kind of been doing, where somebody cuts a guy and we can pick somebody off waivers and then put them in AAA, and then if they're really good, you just kind of find a way to, I mean, that's what they did with Sewell. It's what they did with Streckenrider. Like, these are not guys they went out and spent $4 million on, and they're just like, all right, you have to be good. These are guys that people cut because they didn't believe in them. We believed in them, brought them in, and it's a testament, I guess, to our pitching development over the last few years. We've been able to kind of like, hey, you're only throwing a slider 25% of the time, and most of your outs are coming from the slider. Maybe you should bump that up to 60%.
Right.
And it's like, oh crap, like I should have done that. That's kind of what they've been doing. And it's been working really well.
Anything else you want to cover? I mean, we've been through the entire roster.
You want to talk about what we should do?
I was kind of gonna say I was looking at the free agent targets. We kind of touched on all of those guys.
Yeah, sure,
I mean, it's. What would you say? Like, what's the next move that you? We'll kind of end on this. Like, if I told you like right now, I opened my phone, I was like, breaking news: Mariners signed someone. Who is the guy? Not the dream, because obviously the dream is like whatever, but the guy, like the position and the guy that I think you'd be like
stoked about.
Yeah,
that's tough. It's a toss up, but I don't know. Like the Trevor Story stuff, like I'm concerned that he's probably gonna get a huge mini year contract. Yeah. The dream, I guess, or just ideally, I think I would probably like to see like a Chris Bryant, like 4-year deal where we don't give him like, let's see, I don't know, more than like, I don't know, 23 a year.
Okay.
Anything more than that, you're looking at like, all right, I think that's
4 years, $90 million.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be way higher than that. But I don't know. I don't want to see him give him too much of the bag, but I don't know. If they call their shot on a guy, I would love it. If it, Story or Bryant, even if they overpay him, if they call their shot and they're like, we want this guy on the team, like, I'm not gonna complain about that. We haven't had
would it be? I guess this is. I'd probably lean Bryant or Story here, but because we already got Robbie Ray, but it was like Stroman or Chris Bryant if you had to choose one right now.
That's tough. I would probably go Chris Bryant.
I think I would
because I don't know. I believe that as long as injuries aren't horrible, I believe that the fifth guy
can be anyone almost.
Yeah,
right?
I think we have a lot of options that could be okay. Like, I mean, I don't mind playing the Dunn Sheffield
I was just gonna say
game as long as they're the 5. I would like to bring in.
That's the nice thing is now we don't have to say like because of Ray. It's like it's between like those guys are the 5 for sure.
Yeah, and you could go down this list and find a guy who is kind of Tyler. They could bring in Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, bring him back.
I would say the dream is probably Chris Bryant. 4-year deal. Don't pay him too much.
100. It's probably 100.
Yeah, it's probably 4-year 100. I don't know. And then you bring in a guy like Tyler Anderson again, who already has rapport with the team, and then Dunn and Sheffield can kind of figure it out, and kind of tell them like, hey, you can work in the bullpen a little bit, work in the minor leagues. You have an option, and we'll play it by year. I know they're going to go 5 this year is the plan, assuming everybody can stay healthy. So, I mean,
yeah, I think
I like that option a little bit better. I love Stroman, but if they bring in Stroman, then you're kind of in the hitting. I really like having like, Toro or Dylan Moore and, but I don't love the idea of having like Toro, Dylan Moore, Jake Fraley, like
those guys are playing, one of those guys is playing every day.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of having more than one of them in the lineup. But if you bring in Chris Bryant, like your utility guys are amazing, and I feel like we can handle injuries pretty well because we have a lot of positions where a lot of guys can move around, the best fit whatever's going on. But I would say I'd rather have the bat, especially being a team that has a very, very pitcher-friendly ballpark, has a good bullpen, a lot of pieces that can move around. Some guys
and our bats weren't good last year.
Right. Yeah. They did enough, but like we had to win 1-run games because we weren't winning games by 4 or 5 runs.
Exactly.
If we did have a 5-1 lead, we would make it 5-4.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah. No, yeah. I totally agree. I think the bats haven't been.
Yeah. But I
don't think it's been too much of a priority. So I hope that. I mean, maybe Julio's the bat that they think that they're gonna.
Could be. Yeah. I think it's a very realistic chance that even if he doesn't start the year in the MLB or doesn't start right away, that by July he will be an everyday guy.
I also think I really, I don't know if I'm gonna I'd stake my claim in there yet, but I think Kelenic is gonna be a lot better than he was.
Yeah.
I think fans kind of have already like not given up by any stretch of the imagination, but like kind of said, oh, he's not like the top of the lineup guy. And I don't know. I think he's still got a chance to.
Yeah. I think this offseason is big for him.
Right. Because if he comes out and he's like our 3 or 4 hitter, I mean, our lineup changes again drastically.
Right.
Like you add him and then, I mean, yeah, like our top of the, I don't know, someone's got to replace Seager at the top of the lineup. And I don't know if it's 1, 2, 3 eventually becomes, if 1, 2, 3, 4 is Crawford, Frazier, Kelenic, Haniger, or in like some sort of, and Kelnic's hitting like 280 with power, like then our lineup becomes a lot better. And then France goes down to 5, like, that becomes a lot better, I think, then.
Right.
So.
Yeah. One more thing that I just kind of realized, the only thing about the contracts this year is so next year we have to keep into account that Haniger is going to be a free agent and Frazier is going to be a free agent. Whew. So that's kind of tough because
to bring in like a big bat,
right? Because then it's like, all right, how much money do we have? And I think they know this already. Yeah, but I mean, if Haniger plays well again,
I was going to say I kind of hope. What if we? I would hope we sign him.
I hope
maybe
so.
Maybe even middle of the season or. Do it before he becomes ineligible for. I don't know.
He seems like a guy that you give a nice little 3 or 4 year deal, and it's tough. It's tough not to. And then the Frazier thing, how old is he?
He's 30.
30. Yeah, I mean, like if he plays well, it's kind of like it's hard to. We don't. Our second base. The reason why we went out and traded for someone is because we can't develop a second baseman. We haven't had. Noelvi Marte will be up in probably 2 or 3 years, and I like how your fans have a nice little conversation in the chat.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. But yeah, it's so hard to find. The Mariners have had a ridiculous time finding second basemen.
Seriously.
So I mean, if he's the guy and he plays well, like you probably got to pay him.
Probably.
And then how much is that going to be? And yeah, I mean, we only have so much money, but that's where guys like Julio and Kelenic who aren't getting paid for 4 years are going to come into play.
Definitely. Or you hope, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That's all I got. That was fun.
That was fun.
45 minutes on the Mariners. That's probably better than putting that at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. I think we covered everything.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Podcast tonight.
Tune in tomorrow. Or late tonight if you want.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's
cool.